Yep.
Let's get it on.
Okay, we are recording. We are recording a special episode of the Prehistory Traveler's Guide podcast. I am the showrunner, Greg Everett. On the host panel, we are welcoming back Samuel Eiler. Say howdy to the Daikaiju fans watching.
Howdy doody, everybody. Sorry. Hey guys.
We have two very special guest hosts tonight. One of which is the first. Both of them are first timers coming on here. First of which is the founder of the Kaiju vs. Cancer charity, which we'll be discussing tonight, and the best-selling author of numerous best-selling Kaiju books, including Atomic Rex, Chimera Scourge of the Gods, and many others. Please give it up for Mr. Matthew Dennion.
Hey everybody, a pleasure to be here and talk Kaiju and dinosaurs with you guys.
And also joining us is a fellow YouTuber and now also contributor to the Kaiju v Cancer charity, and also a just now published author of Operation Red Dragon, the Omni-Viewer, Mr. Ryan George Collins. Say hello, good sir.
Hello, good sir.
I think you should get kicked off the podcast for that.
If you see the setup, I'm going to take the punchline.
Yeah.
Right on.
And of course, our guest of honor tonight is a returning guest from March of 2017. He doesn't need too much introduction. It's the acclaimed artist himself, Mr. Matt Frank. Welcome back, buddy.
It's me. I'm here. That's when everyone turns off the microphone because they're going to be like, oh, geez, he's going to go on about feminist theory and early Japanese cinema, and he's going to be, and we only won't be able to shut him up. But no, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me back.
Oh, I've been trying to do this for quite a long time, and, well, now's as good a time as ever, as they always say. So, what's going to be our first topic tonight? I'd say let's discuss the most recent monster movie that came out, Rampage. Our thoughts on it, what we liked, what we disliked. Just have a good, fun time talking Rampage for a little before we jump over to Godzilla and Friends.
I loved Rampage. I thought it was just pure fun. The story was good enough, but I just wanted to see three monsters wrecking stuff and beating the tar out of each other, and that's exactly what we got. And you just put the rock in there, it makes it better. You know, I mean, you can't lose like
me personally, it was very nostalgic to watch it because when we were kids, my brothers and I used to play the Rampage games a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Matt, I love the piece of art you posted on Facebook for it, by the way. That was totally awesome. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that. I did that for a little event we had in San Antonio, and it was a lot of fun. I'm kind of in agreement. I thought it was the most fun I'd had in a theater probably since Skull Island came out last year. Just a raucously good time. I actually, I would say it's at least as entertaining as maybe one of the lower tier Marvel movies. I certainly had more entertaining villains than most of the Marvel movies.
Yeah, you're right.
like there's just so much, and a lot of people will say like, oh, it's kind of a dumb movie, but I still liked it. And it's like, yeah, but it's dumb in a very calculated way. Like it's dumb in so much as you need to suspend your disbelief X amount because we're going to blow through all this stuff so we can get to the monsters and the mayhem and the Rock just chewing on that scenery next to Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
And just a great time. And as opposed to something dumb like, say, a Transformers movie where it's more dumb because it's inept and the people who are working on it don't know what they're doing. But that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else had anything.
Well, yeah, total agreement. I mean, people can say it's dumb, but I mean, look at the source material. The source material is very calculated in its weirdness and silliness. So, plus, not having much in the way of plot in the first place means you can pretty much add stuff to it anyway. And,
right.
Yeah.
I thought they did a lot. I'm sorry. They did a lot of nice homages to other monster movies too. Like to me, George reminded me a lot of Mighty Joe Young in the way he was handled. Ralph obviously took inspiration from Varon. Lizzie's had like the Biollante type head and looked like Jiger a bit, I thought, in the Omni and I've talked, or mentioned this, me and I've talked about it before, from the old Gamera movies, but I thought that's cool that they kind of like seem to do their homework on the genre and go forward from there. So
yeah, that was the thing that I remember when I saw the promotional videos of Ralph flying. That was when the movie went from being like this, oh, it's going to be like kind of a fun little distraction, to, oh, no. This is legit a monster movie. Like, it's about how crazy can we get with this? How can we make these into more than just giant animals? How can we make them into like real movie monsters that have that keep surprising the audience? And I think that was the most important thing.
Yeah, they definitely pulled that off well, where you didn't just feel like you were watching a monster on the loose type of thing, but that they had some, George in particular obviously had some personality to him, and was his own character, aside from just being, a big ape in the film.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that it was actually Dwayne Johnson's insistence that George survive?
No, I didn't, but that's pretty cool.
Really? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. When he first read the script, George died, and he went to the writers and he said, guys, he has to live. My fans don't come to my movies because they want to be sad at the end. He's got to survive. And he held out until they changed it.
That's awesome. Yeah, The Rock clearly has really good instincts with regards to the kind of movies that he associates his brand with.
Other than the last video game movie he was part of, Doom, but...
Oh, well, he was just starting out, right?
Well.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the tweet he had about Doom?
No.
It was amazing. It popped up on Tumblr a few times. There was basically he made a statement saying, "Oh, Rampage is like the highest rated video game movie of all time," and it's like, and I we finally broken the video game movie curse, and I should know because I was part of that piece of crap Doom movie. And then the official Doom Twitter responded to that and just said, Dwayne. Like, really, like passive-aggressive. It was really funny.
That's great.
Anyway.
He can do that because he's The Rock, so.
Oh, sure. Well, there's a term for that in wrestling. I don't know wrestling, but it's not throwing shade, but it's something like that.
He's like creating heat, kind of, right?
Heat, that's it. He's creating heat. He did the same thing with the Godzilla fans, where he literally said, "Oh yeah, Liz could totally kick Godzilla's ass," and I really want to say that because I know the Godzilla fans will get pissed off, and I'm like, "Okay, there, Mr. People's Eyebrow." Anyway, oh man.
Yeah.
I can talk about that movie all day, though.
Yeah, I could. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I have seen people say they wish that it had stuck closer to the original origins of original origins, a little redundant, but the origins that they had in the movie. I kind of feel like if they're going to do a straight adaptation, it would have to be animated.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say, you can do that, and I think it would be entertaining, but it would also have to be an outright farce. It would have to be a complete, it would have to be something like Team America World Police with, puppets and men in suits, and I would watch the crap out of that, but that's not the movie they were making.
Yeah, I was afraid if they did a straight-up one, it'd be more like Pixels, that movie with, Pac-Man and everything in it. I was glad they didn't go that route.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
You don't talk about what?
Yeah, what don't we not talk about?
You don't bring that into my house.
But I thought it worked well that they just kind of made them animals that grew bigger. I thought they made more sense than having people mutate into these creatures. That would have taken a lot more explaining instead of just, we'll have this stuff fall in animals and make them grow giant. Who, like Matt said, let's just move this plot along quickly and we'll get to the destruction and the fighting and stuff. So there you go.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. There it is. Somebody else talk. I've been talking for a while.
Okay, regarding
All
my
right, Greg, you're the
thoughts-
host. Come up with the next topic.
Okay. Oh, before we close out the Rampage part, I'll just say I really had a good time seeing this movie. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he's awesome. He really has a good dynamic with George as far as characters go. George really surprised me with his range of characterization, including how crude he was. I mean, that little dirty little prank he pulled in the movie, playing dead and flipping the rock off, and some of the more crude, things he says, sort of. That really had me cracking up. But everything in this film, I really enjoyed. Jeffrey D. Morgan really surprised me for how much scenery he just chewed up so delightfully. And of course, the monsters. The monsters are the main star, and I really enjoyed each and every one of them. But my favorite is that giant croc, Lizzie.
Yes, I agree. She's definitely a showstopper.
My favorites are both George and Lizzie, probably because they remind me a lot of my two favorite giant monsters, King Kong and Godzilla.
Nice.
Yeah, I will say one thing that I do feel like the bar has been raised a little bit for Godzilla vs. Kong having to follow Rampage. Like, do you guys think that people will look back when Godzilla vs. Kong comes out and compare it to Rampage in terms of like, well, we got a pseudo Kong vs. Godzilla already, and it was actually really fun and good. So now this one better be fun and good.
I kind of feel the same way. I feel like they really need to lean hard practical of the upcoming Godzilla movies. I mean, to be fair, I don't think as many people are seeing Age as people are going to see Godzilla vs. Kong. So, yeah. But yeah, I do agree that I feel like there are going to be some comparisons.
Also worth considering as far as differences would be that Godzilla and Kong are going to be so much bigger. Plus, Godzilla has a power that neither George nor Lizzie has, the atomic breath. So
True. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing is Godzilla and Kong have already fought once in the past, back in 1962, so this is actually a rematch of sorts.
Yep.
It's actually funny to consider that there are people out there who didn't actually... I've had protracted conversations with people that they didn't know that Godzilla fought Kong before.
Really? I thought that was just kind of like, even outside of the base, kind of like common knowledge,
Surprised. I mean, there are people, like I went to a Pacific Rim mini fan convention 2 years ago, I think, and the majority of people there had never seen a Godzilla movie. So take from that what you will.
Yeah.
Well, they live under a rock or something.
Well, you got to remember the way that genres like this get revitalized around is because people make new material that's in the genre. The people get so in it with new media, new material all the time. It's not like you can. I mean, I only just saw a Dirty Dancing for the first time like a week ago.
Oh wow! You've been missing out,
right? It's so good.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's interesting, Matt, about new stuff being needed. If you think about it, there's probably an entire generation of kids who or adults at this point, who might only know the '98 Godzilla because of the theatrical. Or like Godzilla 2000 up until 2014, because Godzilla 2000 like a very limited release, and otherwise people in the fan base like us who are looking for DVDs we know that are coming out or something like that, as opposed to seeing advertised that a new Godzilla movie's coming out, right? To kind of keep it in the public conscience.
Yeah.
I hope what I just said was not in any way offensive. I mean, I was kind of half joking when I said that.
I was very
No. Nothing offensive about it. It raises an interesting topic.
Yeah.
I was about to say on the subject of Godzilla '98. I mean, it's funny to consider that there is a whole generation of people who did grow up on that movie. That's one of the reasons why, while I am very critical of the movie itself, I'm never critical of the people who grew up with it and have a soft spot for it, because that was a major release, and it was a lot of people's first introduction to genre, similar to how a lot of people's first introduction to Godzilla now is the 2014 movie. Like,
right.
I've talked to a lot of people who said, like, oh yeah, that's the first Godzilla movie I've ever seen, and it made me into a fan. So, There you go. That's the genre for you.
Absolutely, but in the world of kaiju literature, if we want to take a little sidestep there, that's been booming, especially just in the last 5 or 10 years. Especially, I mean, there's so many great new authors out there, like Dennion here, of course, with Jeremy Robinson's project Nemesis series, and even our co-host Omni-Viewer here has just published his first book in the genre of Operation Red Dragon. So if you guys want to talk about some amazing works of kaiju fiction that are really shaping to be quite awesome, if you would like to take us away.
First, I just want to congratulate Omni on your first book. That's an incredible feeling, I know. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Woo! Yeah.
Thank
Right
you.
on, man.
Yeah. No, it's just I think, and Matt, please feel free to chime in us too, because I know you're friends with him as well. I feel like the whole kaiju genre exploded with Jeremy Robinson when he released Project Nemesis, right? I mean...
Oh, yeah. I really do feel like he... Well, I sort of almost feel like it was partially that... Jeremy sort of saw the way the winds were blowing, and he basically figured, because he had been writing books for I think at least a decade, and just tons of different stuff, some of it with monster stuff in it, but Nemesis was his first, I'm going to try my hand at the kaiju genre, and I think he did a really good job, and he sort of anticipated this resurgence that the genre was going to have. And I think that if not kicking it off, he definitely was one of the strongest early voices, especially in the world of fiction.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
For myself, he was a huge inspiration with the Nemesis series, and other authors too who are up and coming. Zach Cole, Greg, who you've had on before, I know is Jeremy, big fan, and he inspired him because I think before Nemesis, with a few exceptions, it was mainly just the Mark Saraceni Godzilla novels that were out there, and there wasn't much of a thought into, well, you can make your own original kaiju and put it in a novel. And I think
right. I'm agreeing. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, when Nemesis came out, it kind of for me at least, and other people I've talked to, it was like, wow, this is really good, and maybe I can try my hand at this. And it seems to have grown.
Yeah, well, thanks to a lot of the gatekeepers and kind of walls crumbling down in the last couple of years, especially with regards to self-publishing.
Yes.
I mean, I recently worked with Raphael Coronelli on his Daikaiju Yuki, the third book in his series, Makwa, Life's Blood of the Earth, and I really like what he's been doing, and so he approached me about doing some character illustrations for his book, and he's one of my current favorites because I love the brazenness with which he cracks at the genre and kind of just decides it's a alternate future, a post-apocalyptic world where kaiju and man have to live together, and there's all this other stuff going on, and it's really fun. They're fun books.
I'll have to check those out. I haven't read those yet. And I think one thing I find a lot, especially doing original kaiju, because a lot of people approach me about, can I do fan fiction on Godzilla? Can I do fan fiction on Godzilla? I'm like, you can, but you can't do anything with it other than, show it to your friends. But I've also pointed out to them that, and Matt, I don't know if you feel this or not, because you do so many Godzilla stories, is that, if you do an established character, you're kind of beholden to that character's background in some respects. Where if you do an original character, you can kind of go wherever you want with it. I feel like it's a little more freeing.
It really does depend on exactly what the project is, because sometimes it is a show of it does show your capabilities as a writer to be able to work within a pre-established universe. I do agree that fundamentally there is a lot more freedom to be had with kind of going at your own and doing your own thing. Of course, I'm doing Red Man right now, and I'm having to write it as well as draw it, and I'm basically having to create a story out of nothing.
Right.
I'm basically having to rampage this and find a story that works narratively. And it can be a challenge, but it's also a really fun exercise. And in some ways, it's almost a bit more of a comfort zone.
Yeah, I can agree with that because, for instance, I do like a lot of Sherlock Holmes stories for Black Coat Press. So in that, it's fun because I mean, who doesn't like Sherlock Holmes? But at the same time, the only kind of thing I run into with that is fan bases where you might do something that's a little different from how people perceive the character for the most part, and then they get on you about it. But I still enjoy it. That's why I do it. But I feel like that definitely comes up.
Yeah, and I don't want to poo-poo fan fiction either. I think fan fiction is great. I personally see it as a great way to kind of get your chops and kind of cut your teeth on storytelling. Because let's face it, when everybody starts out, they suck. I mean, regardless of what they do, I encourage people like, listen, the first couple things you write or the first couple things you draw are not going to be great, but that doesn't mean you should stop. So, yeah, man, I'm with you in that respect, I think.
Yeah, totally. I have people send me stuff all the time, and I try to give them pointers on it and stuff, and I tell them, like, when I look back at my first few stories, they're terrible now, I think. So it's just kind of growing as you go. But yeah, I started out just doing fan fiction for GFan, back in the day. And
sure. Yeah, that's and I can definitely speak to that as well because I restarted not restarted, but I'm revisiting Godzilla Neo recently, and in order to make new entries, and that's completely a fan project. It's just for fun.
It's a great fan project, though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But as an artist who has grown, I mean, I did these things 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I've gone back, and on the one hand, I listen to people I know people who've grown up with Godzilla Neo, and they've said that to me. They're like, oh, I grew up with this, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. But they also, I go back and as an artist, and I look at it and I think, man, this is some crap. Because just because I've grown as an artist, I've grown as a writer, I look back on the way I've done certain things, and I'm like, I probably wouldn't have done it like this now. But anyway,
I think it's. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I was going to say I was talking to Ryan recently because he's just put his first book out. So we had a few discussions, and I told him whenever people come to me about being a writer, because I can't draw for anything, but I assume art's the same way. I tell them it's I feel like being a writer or being an artist of any kind is like being a golfer, where you never really get good at it. You just get better, right, as you progress.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I think the old saying goes is that it takes 10,000 hours to get good at something.
Right.
And who knows how many hours you actually spend on that. So, I mean, you're always going to be your own worst critic. And that goes for both being too lenient on yourself and to being too harsh on yourself.
Right.
So, what's important is how other people perceive the work.
10,000 hours. I might finally be a good husband soon, then. I think I'm closing in on that.
Ooh, man. You probably hit it before me. Anyway. Oh, Lordy Lou. Anyway. I don't want us to derail the conversation too much because we'll sit here and gab about being artists / writers / creatives all day.
Yeah.
Greg, is there somewhere else you wanted us to take the conversation, or should we just sit here gabbing?
I'm trying to think here. Oh, okay. I think a good topic of discussion would be jump over to Planet of the Monsters, something that you actually suggested to me in a message once, Matt, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's radio silence there.
Yeah. Yeah, hear the crickets.
Yeah. And not for any negative reason. I actually quite enjoyed Planet of the Monsters. I mean, I wouldn't rank it super high on my personal list of Godzilla properties, but I like it. I like it more in concept than I think I do in execution.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. In the concept, it's good. I felt like they missed some opportunities, and Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I feel like it's probably a lot cheaper to do different monsters in animation than it is in live action, so I was really hoping to actually see more of the monsters show up, in particular ones like Dogora, who's would be tough to do in live action or require a lot of CGI.
In theory, it's. See, the thing is that, and this is something that my friends and I, when I went and I saw the movie, I saw it in Japan, and I got out of it afterwards, and a couple of my friends were like, "Oh man, it was great," and I'm like, "Oh good, I'm glad you thought so." But then I talked to some other friends about it later, and they were like, "Yeah, this was an extremely cheap film. Like this was a budget movie." Mm-hmm. Because Polygon is known for doing these CGI movies, and it's really clear they dropped all their cash on this one Godzilla model, and everything else, the mecha and the people, I get where they're going with it. They want to do things in the animation that they wouldn't do in a live action film, which is more, again, conceptual than it is practical. Like, it's not just an anime version of a Godzilla movie, which I think is what some people wanted. A lot of people kind of just wanted an anime version of Godzilla fighting King Ghidorah. And that's just not really the way Japan looks at the difference between anime and live action. It's one of the reasons why now we are seeing a lot of live action adaptations of various anime, but they're not being very well received, and it's more because I think the studios are trying to tap into an international market, and it's not really working out for them. I mean, maybe it is, but we'll
see what happens with Battle Angel.
Oh yeah, well we'll see about Battle Angel. So I think that making a live action adaptation of any anime is a bad idea because anime fans are crazy. But but that being said, it's one of the reasons why we've only ever seen like one major anime adaptation of Ultraman, and we've never seen Sentai anime, not to my knowledge. Right. We've never seen a full Kamen Rider anime. This is the first really proper Godzilla anime we've gotten, and it's a 63-year-old franchise, or 64, pretty soon. And that's because the Japanese just look at animation and live action as being totally separate.
I can see.
Go ahead.
I can see it. I literally just finished watching the Batman anime that came out. Yeah. And to me, it was just very weird and off-putting, not just in terms of this. I don't want to spoil it for people too much. Sorry, I should warn you. But the pacing and the stuff, and I don't watch a lot of anime, but I could see that this had some feel to it, where it definitely felt off for a Batman film. And this comes from somebody, like, I love all versions of Batman for the most part. From like, I love Adam West Batman, too. I love Kevin Conroy, who doesn't, and up and down. But this one it felt weird because of the pacing and the style. The animation was similar to the Godzilla animation, I think, in some respects, where they used kind of like that CGI as opposed to hand-drawn animation. Again, I'm not animation's not my expertise, but I think I can see what you're saying in terms of like how they view animation differently from live action, and with this as a second example on top of the Godzilla film.
Right, and I am really curious to see the Batman anime because I like seeing different interpretations of different media, like. I'm very critical of Godzilla 98, but I will sit there and defend the Godzilla the series up and down.
Oh yeah,
because it's and I'll even defend that as an interpretation of Godzilla because it not only it fits the requirements, but it also takes some different risks and does some different stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that they're trying something different conceptually with the anime, like based on the teaser for episode 2, the City on the Edge of Battle, which I love these pun referential titles, like Planet of the Monsters, which is obviously a riff on King of the Monsters. City on the Edge of Battle is obviously a riff on City on the Edge of Tomorrow. Right. So that's just great, but it's clear that it's not just going to be a giant Mechagodzilla fighting a giant Godzilla. It's like this city that has been made out of Mechagodzilla and has all these new weapon stuff that it's going to turn on Godzilla. And I think it's basically going to be Godzilla in the Gunhead universe, which I think is a really fun idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking that too. That was like originally a concept for a movie at first, wasn't it? Basically, it was like Godzilla versus Gunhead that got split up, I think. But
that was there. It got split into Godzilla versus Biollante and Gunhead, more or less.
But I think Godzilla versus Gunhead would be cool, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm in for that.
God, that movie is such a hot mess. Gunhead.
It is. It is a hot mess. Yeah.
It's fun. It's a fun movie, but it's also like, what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You want to see a movie from Japan that's got giant monsters, a weird sci-fi aesthetic, and is a hot mess? Watch Assault Girls.
Assault Girls. I've heard of that.
It's from the same director as Ghost in the Shell, but you wouldn't guess it. It's just.
Ugh.
I've got a review upcoming. Don't worry. It's. There are no words.
It sounds like one of those really problematic Japanese movies where you're like, okay, what are we doing here? Oh, that's right. Okay, no, the director of Ghost in the Shell. I was thinking for a second there, the writer of Ghost in the Shell, and I'm like, oh, the guy who wrote Gamera, Guardian of the Universe? Oh, wait. Never mind. So, yeah. Well, that's it in a nutshell. Did anybody else have any expanded thoughts on Planet of the Monsters or any of that stuff there?
Well, I'll be honest. Your review of the movie you did on your Giganticast was very similar to the review that I wrote for that movie in terms of our overall rating and our thoughts on the film and our similar issues of the film, not really giving other kaiju the spotlight. But in terms of the way Godzilla himself was handling that movie, I actually like that this Godzilla is different from the more prehistoric origin and so forth, and the way his powers work and the way he actually exists actually makes sense logically from this film's continuity, if you think about it.
Yeah, it was I thought it was a series of rather bold decisions regarding Godzilla himself, which is definitely where the Japanese clearly are. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good. I was going to say, I didn't mind the different intro for Godzilla. I just thought some of the story points didn't make sense. Like, the humans come back to Earth, for instance, for resources they can't find, but the first plant they come across will cut a knife in half. I was like, well, what are you guys going to eat then? Why would you come back here?
I think the idea was that they just didn't know what kind of difference the time dilation was going to have once they hit light speed.
Right.
Because it was basically either go back to Earth or die. Like they're like, okay, we need to either take our chances going back to Earth where we know there is organic life, or stay out here and float until we die.
Okay, that makes sense. The only issue I had was I felt like they could have done more world building with the interaction between the three races that they had, like, because it kind of seemed like maybe were the humans not, like, I don't say subservient, but maybe like a lower class than the two alien races. Like, I felt like there was something there they could have built more on.
Yeah, that was they teased some really interesting stuff. I love that conversation between the I forget his name, but he's the Bulo Saludo commander, and what's his name? Metfees? Yeah. I love that conversation they have where they were talking about Mechagodzilla, and they're talking about, then you would have they're basically like, in another life, we probably would have been fighting to conquer this planet, and turns out we didn't. And I was just like, wow, that's so funny, because it's such a nice little riff on the plots of those old movies and how everyone's just coming to Earth to conquer it. And I don't know, I thought it was a nice little hat tip there.
No, I like the hat tip. I just like to have seen more from that. Sure, but it's just my opinion, So.
We needed more of Haru screaming. That was what.
We didn't get enough of that.
Yeah. Well, I really hope. I don't know if we're really gonna get it, but I really hope that Haru gets the stupid smacked out of him in one of these other movies, because he had a lot of good people killed, and he's not a good guy, like, at all. And I'm just not sure if Gennaro Bucci is self-aware enough to realize that. Well, that he wrote this total wang of a character.
Yeah, go ahead.
My personal opinion of his character is that he has a lot of understandable rage, but at the same time he's kind of he's arrogant and over his head. He doesn't quite understand what it is exactly he's dealing with.
Sure.
Yeah, I felt like when I was watching Haru, I was like, this dude makes Vegeta look chill. What's going on?
Yeah, speaking of, Vegeta actually grew up as a character throughout his time on Dragon Ball and currently into Dragon Ball Super. And, well, Haru still hasn't grown up quite yet. And he also reminds me too much of that other angst character, Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan.
Yeah, Japan likes its angry boy children. It's definitely, I think that recurring archetype in media is got to be some sort of reflection of Japanese youth, of angry Japanese youth. That classic, I'm an angry, disillusioned young man.
Right.
But you need to actually explore it and explore why this sort of attitude is toxic and self-destructive. And that's something that I just don't know if that's something these movies are really interested in exploring, because we have to have protracted flying mech battles with Godzilla, which I'm all for.
Oh, right.
I just need a little more meat on the bones, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons why I always hold GMK up as the bellwether of storytelling in the Godzilla franchise, especially in recent years, because it explores a lot of these issues like national identity and what it means to make a difference even if you're not the person out on the battlefield. And I don't know, I could talk about GMK for 14 hours. So
totally agree. It's my favorite Godzilla movie, easily.
It's so good. It's so good. And I just smack people in the mouth whenever they say that guy's overrated. Shut up. You're ugly and your parents don't like you. Anyway, what were we talking about?
All right, before we close this one off, maybe we want to talk what our predictions might be for what the third film might be about, like what monsters might show up. Is Godzilla Earth going to survive the trilogy, or will they find some plot device to kill him off? Might we see an animated version of King Ghidorah or Mothra, perhaps? Because I think there have been some teases that Mothra might be in the second film. Don't quote me on that. It's just some teases I've heard.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah. That's something that I've heard them talking about too.
I feel like, though, I don't necessarily want to see Mothra and King Ghidorah again. I mean, we've seen them a lot, and we're going to see them again in the Legendary series. I feel like it would be an excellent opportunity for them to explore other monsters in this universe or that are connected to the Toho-verse that we haven't seen a lot of recently. Varon, maybe. Wouldn't that be cool? Varon popped up. We haven't seen him since Rampage. Bring him back.
A popular one I've seen floating around is the possibility of Space Godzilla, because they said that they established quite clearly that other planets the aliens have gone to, they've seen creatures like Godzilla show up. So I think the popular theory is that a creature like Godzilla might come for the third film, and maybe Space Godzilla.
That would actually be very cool. I think that would be an interesting.
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, if there's one monster that would be really fun to see in anime form, it would be Space Godzilla.
Yeah. I was going to say, one thing would be cool. Did you guys see, Chris Martinez sent me a link for it, the kind of prequel book to Godzilla monsters? That looked awesome from the stuff they had in there. They had all kinds of monsters showing up and multiple Angruses, and they really explored the Godzilla 98, if he was procreating out of control, was apparently a thing in there. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, the book is I think it's called Monster Apocalypse. The idea is that and I was going through I was going through the timeline because somebody had partially translated the timeline and posted it online, and it was kind of interesting because it felt like it was like a 50-60 year cycle, except it started at the beginning of the new millennium and kind of went into this protracted battle of attrition between mankind and these constantly spawning monsters. And I think that's a really interesting idea, and it is a bit of a shame that we didn't see more of that, you know?
Yeah. Or at least a translation. I would totally read that if it was in English.
Oh, yeah. I heard rumors from certain people in the comment section that Gamera is at least referenced, if not shows up outright in there. Any confirmation on that? Or
wait, which character?
Gamera? I've heard people say he shows up in the prequel novel.
I think that's probably referencing Kamebas, the giant turtle from
I kind of thought that might be the case, but most people hear giant turtle from Japan and they think Gamera, so...
These damn kids don't know their space amoeba. They don't know their Yog, the Yog monster from space.
They don't know what they're missing.
Yeah, God, yes. The movie is ridiculous. I need to rewatch it. I mean, basically, that's the cycle it goes through for me. Is like, okay, how long has it been since I've seen one of these friggin' things? But I've actually got a friend who's she was on my episode of she's on my episode the Giganticast episode I did. My friend Mayhem's Muse was on there with me, and she has been like totally down to watch like more kaiju movies. So and she's been loving them and has like so many unique opinions on them because she didn't grow up with the genre like we did. So that might be an opportunity to rewatch Space Amoeba.
And that's a great movie. I think, Ryan, you had made a great point in one of your videos about your favorite movie is kind of however you feel at the time. Like, if you want something that's got a really good story, maybe you watch the original Godzilla vs. Mothra, but if you want something that's just kind of fun, like Godzilla vs. Megalon works for just sitting down and being fun, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a stupid kind of fun, but fun is fun.
Yeah, it's a kaiju for all seasons.
I like that.
Well, that's the thing that I think a lot of people kind of underestimate about this. About this genre is that it's not just monsters hitting each other. There's island adventure stories. There's World War II analogs. There's
the first King Ghidorah was kind of a spy thriller.
Yes.
Yeah, it was James Bond meets Roman Holiday.
And also, some Godzilla films have very important messages to them, like Godzilla vs. Hedorah, for example. That is what I feel, in my opinion, is a very strong anti-pollution message.
Well, yeah, there's no question about that. They lean pretty hard into that anti-pollution message. And
psychedelic drugs, by the way.
That too. Well, that's a funny thing is that it's not just how do I put this? It's not just the message of the film. I think it goes to the style of storytelling, like we were talking about with Ghidorah Three-Headed Monster is sort of and especially what Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster are both heavily inspired by James Bond.
Yeah, clearly.
And they take a lot of those cues from it. And then you got something like Smog Monster. It's not just this big anti-pollution film. It is got this really visceral feeling of a documentary. Because what's his name?
Yoshimitsu Banno?
Yeah, Banno, that's it. He made it very clear that he was a spit it out, Matt. He was a documentarian filmmaker, and he brought that to the table while he was doing Smog Monster. And I think that's really interesting to consider, since there's like these man in a street interviews at one point during the movie. There are these montages, and like the animated segments almost feel like chapter breaks.
Yeah.
There's the point where the one guy, the scientist, turns to the screen and he's all like, well, what form will Hedera's next form be?
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. And it feels like a documentary, and I think that's a really interesting angle that nobody really thinks about.
I had it, but that's an excellent point. I can see it now as you bring it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, a kaiju for all seasons, a monster for all seasons.
Yeah, regarding messages of Godzilla films, all of Ishiro Honda's films had at least some sort of message or a theme that actually mattered to that director's, life at that point in his career. Take Survival Godzilla's Revenge. That film is reviled by many in the community, but there are some people that point out that actually it was one of Ishiro Honda's favorite, films that he ever directed, for its, its themes on, family and, family work balance and other things that were happening in Japan, especially during the late 60s and 70s when this film came out.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely been a big proponent of, is that movie is kind of underappreciated. I wouldn't call it necessarily a good movie, but you can really see that that Honda was kind of in his element, because he's doing a lot of the human interest story stuff that kind of made him. That was where his passion lay as a filmmaker.
Right.
He wanted to be a documentarian as well, didn't he?
Yes.
I remember.
Sort of. I think he more wanted to make. Just make dramatized versions of real life stories, like the Pearl Divers movie he always wanted to make. So yeah. Either way.
But it is true that Honda did do documentary film work at one point during his career. It's mentioned in the new biography that Steve Reifel and Ed Gottschalk just published this past October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to actually sit down and read more of it. I read through part of it and I got busy. But it's a really great book, the bit I've read.
And for those who are wondering, the title is Ishiro Honda, A Life in Film from Godzilla to Kurosawa, written by Steve Reifel, Ed Gottschalk, with the assistance of Yuko Hanayun, and forward by Martin Scorsese.
Oh.
Yeah, it's what a pedigree.
Yes, it is. And this book is the first official English language biography to be officially, supported by the estate of the late Ishiro Honda. So there's information and facts and so forth that were not found in previous biographies written on Ishiro Honda.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Totally worth it.
Oh, definitely check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here, and if we're ready to jump into talking, prehistoric monsters here, all right. What are our predictions on the upcoming Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom? Is it going to be good, or is it going to bomb at the box office, or have we also been spoiled by those trailers revealing too much?
Yeah, I think they've showed us almost the whole story at this point. I will say that.
Yeah, it's so funny because, and I've made no secret of this. I think I'm more excited for the media surrounding the movie than I am for the actual film. Because I used to be a really big defender of Jurassic World back when it came out, and time has not aged it well, in my opinion. And now, as a result, I'm kind of I'm a little hesitant about the movie itself. I'm sure it's going to do really well.
Right.
It's just that, man, I don't care about these characters. I don't really care that Claire and Owen are coming back. Those iconic characters.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like if if 3 wasn't so bad, it might have been a good time to bring back Alan Grant. People will go for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen Jeff Goldblum back, but I don't think he's have a big role, right? He seems like he's just got that small cameo, maybe?
Yeah, I think he's just got a cameo, which is a shame considering that he had such a big role in Thor Ragnarok. So it's not like he's opposed to having a big role, but I don't think he's going to be running from dinosaurs anymore. No. But yeah, like I'm more excited for the Jurassic World Evolution video game, and I'm more excited for the action figures and stuff than I am for the actual film, because I'm just, again, and this is another point that I've made elsewhere, the main reason Jurassic World did as well as it did wasn't really on the merit of the film itself. It was because that movie and this franchise is so nostalgic for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge cornerstone for a lot of us as kids.
Right. I mean, it was like the Star Wars of our generation, right? I mean, everybody saw the first one in '93.
That is very accurate.
It's very accurate indeed. I actually saw that movie when it first came out in '93, along with every other Jurassic Park movie on their opening days.
Oh, sure.
When you get right down to it, Jurassic World is basically the less colorful version of that Chaos Effect action figure line.
That's a good one.
Yeah, those things were awesome. I sort of wish I still had some. I had the what was it? It was like a Titanosaurus Spinosaurus hybrid. I don't even remember.
I actually have that one. I know what you're talking about.
Armagospinus?
Yeah, that's it. It was an Amargasaurus.
Yes,
yeah.
Amargaspinus.
Here, look.
Yep, he's got it.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, oh, there it is. Yeah, I see it.
Yes, that's the toy, though our audience won't be able to see that on screen unless I put a picture of it in the slideshow.
Well, they got Google. They know what it is.
Yes, of course.
Looks like the giant behemoth.
I know, right? Oh, man, where's that remake?
Yes, please. Where is a remake of Giant Behemoth?
Ryan pushed for that a while ago to be in a MonsterVerse. I'm all aboard for that, man. The Giant Behemoth.
I'm still waiting for MonsterVerse to announce their Them remake. Which,
them.
Then let's get Kong in there. Get Kong fighting some giant ants.
They teased it, right? The giant ants from the trees.
I mean, oh yeah, they scream and they fall out of a tree at you.
Yeah,
God, that was great. But yeah, no, but I'm going to the stores and I'm looking at these Jurassic World toys and the legacy toys and stuff they're putting out, and I'm like, man, I'm getting that nostalgia itch. It's scratching that nostalgia itch, but at the same time, I'm looking at it makes me think about Jurassic World and how the only real visceral reactions that I had in that movie were the I see the junior T-Rex, the juvenile T-Rex.
Yep,
there in the chat.
It's even still got the flesh that comes off. Yep, I got it.
I've still got mine too. But yeah, that was the only thing that really had a visceral reaction for me, were the nostalgic elements in Jurassic World, and that big ending with Rexy, and of course the final shot, which is like, I still watch that shot and I still get goosebumps. But again, it's because it's all just the stuff that's related to the original film, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the new stuff. Like, I don't really care about the Indominus Rex. It's not very scary, and it's not very intimidating as a monster. I honestly think the Indoraptor from the new one is much more intimidating. So, just from a design perspective.
Also, can get in. So.
All right, if you got something to say, Omni-Viewer?
I was just saying, like, it's also smaller, so it can get into your room, whereas the Indominus Rex maybe couldn't.
Right.
So that means, yeah, sometimes having a smaller monster is more effective.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Some of cinema's best monsters are human-sized. Take the Xenomorph or the Predator, for example, just for alien creatures. They're about the size of humans, but they're some of the most terrifying in all fiction.
My all-time favorite, and I think one of the best suits ever, is still the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Which is so funny, considering that this is a tangent, not really related, but I was just thinking about the now, what is probably the now abandoned Dark Universe.
Yeah.
How Guillermo del Toro was initially offered the chance to not only spearhead it, but to also direct the Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. And his one stipulation was, okay, that's cool, but can the creature be the hero, or can he be the love interest, or can he not just be an evil force? And the studio said, no, they can't do that. So he said, all right, screw you guys. I'm going to go make my own movie with blackjack and hookers, and then I'm going to get all the Oscars.
Yeah. That didn't work out. And then they went and made like kind of a love interest with the terrible Mummy movie, right? For Tom Cruise, like. Oh
yes, they did. Who was that movie for?
I have no idea.
Seriously, there's that scene. So I sat up and I don't care. I sat up and I found it on like a Chinese or Korean website or something, and I watched it while it was still in theaters. Like somebody had posted a camcorder copy, and I was like, I'm not paying money to see this crap.
You made the right
you're right. So then I sat down and I watched it, and I reached the part where Sophia Boutella, who I have a huge crush on, I think she's extremely attractive and a great actress. She's straddling him on the Templar altar or whatever, on the tomb.
Yeah.
And she's still kind of half rotted, but she's kind of hot and like sitting there like licking him and stuff. And I'm just like, who is this for?
Yeah.
What is the audience for this movie? Anyway.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, man. I'm just being a jackass. Go ahead.
Speaking of remakes, I wanted to get your views on this. What would you guys think of a remake of Gorgo or the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms?
I love a Beast remake. Gorgo would be cool too, but I think a Beast remake would be tremendous. Omni's already done a video, mentioned this too, that he's already owned by WB. Just put him in the MonsterVerse. He inspired Godzilla. I'd love to see it. Plus Ray Harryhausen. Come on, Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah, I'm sort of torn personally. I like that Godzilla, Greg. I'm sort of torn personally because I'm more and more I'm getting more and more skeptical of remakes these days because so many of them. Oh, that's 1989. Damn it! You're distracting me. You taunted me. Anyway, no, I'm just getting more and more wary of certain remakes because I just don't know. I prefer remakes that expand on the original film and try something a little new. Like, again, I would love to see a remake of Them. I think Them is a classic movie, and I think seeing a giant swarm of huge ants, like all CGI, would be actually very cool. A really cool visual. You could do different. You just have to keep it from being too much like Starship Troopers. But you know, but if they're really big and they're in a modern city, I think that would be really cool. God, that's all I can think of now. But then I don't know. Like you think about something like Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and like part of the whole appeal of that movie is just watching Harryhausen's effects.
No, I concur. I don't think you'd do a straight-up remake. I think you'd have to just kind of put him in the MonsterVerse, like Omni said. And they've already kind of teased in the one Timeline Monarch release, there's something frozen in the Arctic Circle, which they've clearly established Ghidra is in the South Pole, and this thing's in the North Pole, near Siberia, which is not too far off from where the Rhedosaurus was first released. So I'm starting a conspiracy theory, or the fan theory, or whatever, that's the Rhedosaurus. I'm hoping that's the case.
That would be interesting. I think that might just be that might have just been an error on WB's part of getting the polls mixed up, because but it does open up some possibilities of there being more monsters out there.
Oh, they on the timeline, they clearly list on the same timeline that Ghidra is in the South Pole and this other thing is in the North Pole. Like I don't think it was. I
have to go back and look at that. Maybe I did miss that little detail. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm sorry, Sam. I feel like the Rhedosaurus could kind of maybe fill an Anguirus type role in that universe without having to pay for him, basically.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Go ahead.
So something that I wanted to point out real quick. John Goodman's character in Kong Skull Island, how he explains that he was on the ship that got sunk. Well, there was there was this one guy who kind of came up with this fan theory that maybe it was the Radosaurus who sank his ship, a little bit like that scene in the original 20,000 Fathoms where it sinks that ship.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
That is an interesting theory. According to the director, according to Vogt Roberts, in his head canon, it's supposed to be like a kraken or something, like a giant squid of some kind. Because it's not. In his head, he said it was not Godzilla. He said, I didn't want it to be Godzilla. I wanted it to be something else.
The squid's interesting because you had that theory that Cthulhu would fit that role well, right? As to be what attacked ship.
I've thrown it out there. I mean, I know it's not a popular idea, but and it would
like
changes.
Well, that's kind of a fun idea. I like the idea of there being some kind of a squid, like some ancient giant squid monster. But getting into it's a protracted argument about the whole Cthulhu, like as a giant monster argument, sort of undermines the basic conceit of Cthulhu as it being a monster that you can fight. Like, the whole idea behind Cthulhu and the Lovecraft mythos is that they are these things that are beyond man. They're beyond even our ability to comprehend them. So they're more like the lurking horror that exists just outside of our reality. So but not a bad idea.
At the same time, though, the MonsterVerse itself is kind of like it may not be pure Lovecraft, but it's got kind of that August Derleth realm of the Cthulhu mythos, where you've got the forces fighting each other. One is quote-unquote good and the other is quote-unquote evil, but neither of them are necessarily concerned about mankind. So
yeah, that's actually a good point. That's something I kind of keep forgetting about, is that the MonsterVerse really is kind of like this. I've got this old one mythos to it where, Godzilla himself and the Mutos, by extension, they are older than we even understand life on Earth to be.
Right.
Like, they're from a time that we have almost no fossil record of. They're so far back in the past. And that's a really interesting idea that I don't know if they're ever going to expand on it, but, and then of course it goes in the whole Hollow Earth theory about how the Skullcrawlers must be some kind of offshoot of a species that lived back then as well. So yeah, but yeah, so yeah, like a pastiche, like that's what I'm saying. Like, if it was just a giant squid that destroyed the boat, I mean, whatever. Giant squid gets eaten in the trailer for Meg, but like something like an ancient giant super squid creature, like a kraken, a proper kraken, like that's interesting.
That the Hollow Earth thing, I don't know why, but for some reason I'm now kind of reminded of that Edgar Rice Burroughs story at the Earth's core.
Oh, because it's the classic Hollow Earth story.
It's Pellucidar, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. God, that movie is a lot of fun. I mean, obviously it's based on the books, but that Doug McClure movie, that's a treat. I actually, I was talking to the guy who runs the Trendmasters fan page over on Facebook, and he pointed. I was just talking to him about what's it called at the Earth's core, and he showed me that there was a Tarzan playset made by Trendmasters where he goes to Pellucidar and fights the Mahars. Yeah, and I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want that.
I have those figures.
So cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a
And that's
sucker.
one of the books too. He goes to Pellucidar in one of the books.
Yes.
Oh, see,
Awesome.
that's cool. I love that that old Burroughs was getting weird with continuity back then, and starting to like yeah, screw it, let's have Tarzan fight dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
That needs to be made into a big budget movie. Like seriously, Tarzan versus dinosaurs. That would be awesome.
Warner Brothers did make a Tarzan movie, but it didn't turn out so well. So.
Yeah, it's sort of. I think had that movie done better financially, I think we would be seeing more Tarzan movies.
Yeah.
But certain properties, they're hard to get them to land. Like, you guys remember the whole debacle with John Carter of Mars?
Yes, that books are some of the best, my favorite books, I'll say. And they just, Omni and I talked about this too, they tried to cram 3 books into one movie, and it didn't come out well.
I thought it wasn't necessarily a bad movie.
No, I agree.
Thought it had but you're right. It really ramrodded through that first book, and several other books. Like, I don't know.
Did Disney not want a trilogy? Did they want it to fail when the trilogy's right there? But you say, actually, this should all be one movie. Like,
right, and they had the books that inspired Star Wars and everything else. Like, that was it. They just had to do it right, and it was like Matt said, it's not bad. I can enjoy that movie, but it could have been so much better, is the way I feel like.
Sure.
Failed, so they just said, well, let's get Star Wars instead.
Exactly.
What Greg just said of Tarzan fighting with dinosaurs. Can you imagine a pack of Manganis fighting a pack of Mahars? Can you imagine that?
Believe it or not, Disney actually did that on their Tarzan cartoon series that followed the movie. They had Tarzan go to Pellucidar a few times and take on like raptors, and it's more Disney-esque, but the series was even a little bit more edgy than the Tarzan animated film was. So,
that sounds like fun.
Yeah,
it sounds like fun. Yeah, when they really, it's so funny how we're getting way off point with the whole monster thing, but it is funny how Disney sort of would use their animated series as sort of a means to explore things that they never really got the chance to dig into in the movies proper. And some people, I know that Lindsay Ellis, for example, holds up the Hercules animated series as being just a little bit superior to the movie.
Yeah, I think it probably is, actually.
Yeah. But anyway, we maybe want to swing back around to Giant Monsters.
Yeah, I've got to get going soon. Can I talk about the charity before I go? Greg, is that cool with everybody?
Let's talk Kaiju vs. Cancer while you're here, Matt. Dennion?
Sure. Well, Kaiju vs. Cancer is a charity that myself, Omni, and a number of other YouTubers, artists, and authors have put together, where we're working in conjunction with St. Jude Children's Cancer Research Hospital, where we're lending our characters to be put on shirts for right now, but we're looking for other ways to explain it, to capitalize on that. Matt, maybe later I'll talk to you off the side about how I can sell prints and have it go to charity instead of go to me. Maybe I don't know. But anyway, it was inspired by Chris Martinez, who's been on the show before. Chris does the Night of the Fire Beast Oregon comics. And Chris contacted me a little while ago, and he said, hey, I got some crappy news. Unfortunately, he has stage 4 cancer. In multiple parts of his body. I don't know if you ever met Chris or not, Matt. He was usually at G-Fest. He's a cool dude.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, he was kind of down about it, and me, like I'm sure everybody here has had people lost to cancer, and I wanted to do something about it. So I got in touch with Chris, and I said, "Yo, Chris, let's put together like some of our characters and then try to sell them. We'll help out St. Jude. I mean, if there's one thing everybody can get behind, it's helping out kids with cancer, So there wasn't, nobody was going to be like, oh, that's a bad idea, like I'm not supporting this or something like that, or give us grief about it. But anyway, I was really pleased. I reached out to all of our friends in the community, and everybody was on board with it. So the first show we did was My Atomic Rex and Chris's Doragon, basically just because I wanted to make sure we got some honor for Chris in case, God forbid, something happened. But the newest one we just did, which is available now, is a homage to the old VHS cover for Destroy All Monsters, where we basically took the Toho monsters and replaced then with our monsters, and we called it Destroy All Cancer. So that's available now. You can find us on Facebook at Kaiju vs. Cancer with all the links. Omni has done 2 tremendous videos helping to promote it because his voice sounds so much better than mine. I sound like Bob Dylan. He sounds like an actual actor. It works out.
Excellent.
So it's really cool, and we're working on our 3rd shirt, which will be out in June. It's going to be a homage to the cover of Crisis on Infinite Earths, the cover where the Anti-Monitor is like fighting all the DC heroes. Because as we were looking at our stable of characters, we have like quite a few superheroes too. And today I spent the day reaching out to indie publishers of comics and saying like, hey, we need a few more superheroes to fill this out. Are you in? And we got quite a few more people have joined in. So breaking news, we've got Hexagon Comics has agreed to work with us. AP, I'm going to missay his name, Fuchs, who does Axum Man, is in with us. And we've got On the Square Comics, too. So all smaller guys, but they're letting their characters to us. And we putting them on a shirt. We'll be mimicking that old cover with our mascot filling in for the Anti-Monitor. And there's 2 ways you can either buy a shirt, and the money goes to St. Jude's. We also have a link where you can buy a shirt and send it to kids at St. Jude's. So, like a little bit of a pick-me-up for the kids. In addition to them getting money for research. I should have let you do this, Omni. You just sound so much better than me when you talk. So I'm sorry.
We could have it off so much better.
But it's really cool. And if Greg, if there's any way you can put any of our links onto this later on, I greatly appreciate it.
Yes, once the video's up on YouTube, I'll include all the relevant links to the social media, the charity, and the personal pages for everybody here involved, like Omni's channel, Matt's DeviantArt, and Facebook. All the relevant links and so forth.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great. Matt, get with me later. Send me a message on Facebook or something, and we can talk about what I can possibly do. I knew I couldn't be involved in a as much as I had wanted to be, because I've just been so busy recently with Redman and everything. Yeah, and just conventions and stuff. I've actually got to head to a convention tomorrow, and got to drive 5 hours to the McAllen, which is on the border between Mexico and Texas.
Oh,
excuses.
Wow. Definitely, Matt. And we. Whatever, if you can do something down the line, would be greatly appreciated on our behalf. We know sure. And to be honest, I'm sure Omni has seen this before too. Every time we put something new up, we get the question, "Is Matt Frank going to do it?" And it's like he's real busy. We're
Well, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can at least contribute something. Throw something y'all's way. Just like I said, I've just been, I'm just burning the candle at both ends, and woof. But. Anyway, get with me later, and we'll talk about it.
And we totally understand and appreciate it. I don't mean to put any undue pressure on you, by the way.
No. I want to always want to try to help where I can. So this community means a lot to me. So see what we can do.
Thank you.
I really applaud you guys for especially, I just it means a lot, because like I said, this community means a lot to me, and it means a lot to see people coming together and helping each other out. So
well, it's one thing about, I think, the Kaiju community, if you will, that gets overlooked by the mainstream people is those outsiders that just how caring and connected the community is. Because, like, for instance, all the people that I've reached out to in effect should be my competitors. Like, there are other people that are selling books like I am, but everybody is super cool in the community. Like, I've never come across that everybody wants to help promote other people's works, and especially when you put together calls like this, there was not everybody who wants to do whatever they can to help out. But I think it's a good thing, because sometimes, I don't know if you guys have had this happen to you or not, but people would be like, "Oh, giant monster movies, you just like seeing buildings get wrecked." And it's like, no, it's so much more than that. And none of us, most people in the fan community, are genuinely caring people who, in real life, really don't want to see anybody get hurt. That's not why we watch movies. But have you found that, Matt? You have a lot more experience than I do in the Kaiju community about caring people, being members of it.
Oh, sure. I mean, like any other fandom, it's fraught with a lot of conflict and a lot of people getting up in each other's faces, and that's just how things go. That's just how things go. But I do agree that the one thing that I think the kaiju community definitely has over a lot of other communities is that while kaiju are certainly super well known and there's a lot of people who like the genre, the number of people who are, I would say, diehard fans are relatively few.
Right.
We're a fairly tight-knit community as a result, and everybody kind of knows each other. So as a result, when the chips are down and people need help, even if we have disagreements with those people, we generally try to put our differences aside and try to help each other out and make things better. So yeah, I would say that's accurate.
Friendship is magic. Wait, wrong fandom.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's the correct fandom. That's always the correct fandom. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I'm down with it. But yeah, I was gonna say, is there anything else we all wanted to cover here? Because I've got to get going too. The Matt's got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Maybe if we had to talk about maybe two more topics here. Like, what are our predictions on the Meg film's success in theaters, and if it will inspire a franchise based off the other books in that series? In case you didn't know, Meg is only part one of a soon-to-be 6-part book series, with the 6th book, Meg Generations, coming out this June.
I'm excited for it. I actually re-listened to the audiobook of the original Meg novel recently, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I started listening to the 2nd book, and it's fine. I'm curious to see how they're going to adapt it.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of things in the book that are like, how are they going to do this? So,
yeah, I'm also interested to see how Jason Statham plays Jonas Taylor. I did not picture Jason Statham as Jonas Taylor when I was reading the book.
Or did I?
Yeah, he's so much more of an Alan Grant, Sam Neill type of character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh no, need to get old Jason Furrow Brow Statham in here.
Yeah, I didn't think Transporter when I was reading Jonas Taylor.
Jonas is quite an American. He's an American character in the books, and I always pictured someone like Michael Biehn perhaps playing him in a film adaptation. But then again, I don't know how many else. I mean, when you start getting into the 2nd book, that's when you start seeing other prehistoric creatures added to the series, like the Chronosaurs. Then the 3rd book introduced hints of something even larger than the Megalodon. Then when you get to Hell's Aquarium Book 4, you get an entire new ecosystem full of marine creatures from across Earth's history, including a giant Liopleurodon that serves as the rival to Angel, the main Megalodon. That's
a fun idea.
Very awesome to see a fight between a giant pliosaur and a Meg on screen. And you get that in the Hell's Aquarium book.
It really depends on how well the movie does. Like, monster movies may be back in a certain respect, but there's no telling how well this one's going to do financially unless the Meg fans come out in force.
Yeah, and Omni had pointed this out too. I think one of the hurdles we have to overcome is that this isn't just Jaws but bigger. It's
much more of a high seas action film.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, it is.
Yeah.
Same with the first.
Well, and, go ahead.
Me personally, after watching the trailer for it, I think it's the most interesting shark movie since Deep Blue Sea.
I thought The Shallows is pretty awesome, actually. If you guys agree or not.
I haven't seen it yet, so can't comment on that one.
The Shallows.
Dude, it's got Blake Lively sitting in a bathing suit for the entire time. Like, that alone makes it worth checking out.
Man, yeah. I heard that was a really fun time, that it was a good simple movie, and that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I think sorry, go ahead.
I've only seen 3 killer shark movies that I actually thought were pretty good. Jaws, Deep Blue Sea, and Peter Benchley's Creature.
Bait is interesting. If you've ever seen the movie Bait, it's pretty good too. Pretty well done.
Bait.
Yeah.
Bait sounds like a different kind of movie. Is all I'm saying.
Bait is it's worth checking out. It's weird. The premise is a tidal wave floods a town, and there's like a robbery going down inside of a convenience store, and then they're stuck in the convenience store as this great white shark is swimming around them. It's definitely worth checking out.
Yes.
Sounds hysterical.
Yes,
I think I need to see this.
Yeah, Bait. Put it down. I think it's on Netflix. But I think, and I mentioned that movie for a reason, is that I think Meg is going to have to walk that fine line that shark movies have to do between having a certain amount of camp to them and being real serious. Like Jaws obviously pulls off being real serious, but then there's plenty of shark movies that have the kind of camp to them, and I think Meg's going to have to walk that fine line to be successful.
And the one thing that Meg has going for it over everything else is that it's based off of a New York Times best-selling book. So that's the one thing it has going for it over other recent shark films, because it's based off of a good source material.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited for it, and I'm just excited that monster movies are back.
Amen,
legit monster movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
amen to that.
Yeah. What was the other topic we wanted to? Oh, sorry, unless anybody else had something.
No, go ahead.
The Godzilla sequels and the Monsterverse, our predictions for King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong in terms of story, Kaiju stuff. Like, what do you think is going to happen in those sequels in terms of plot and so forth?
I guess I'll kick us off. I would say that I'm really kind of curious about what the story is going to be, because it feels almost like they're going in a similar direction to Godzilla 2014 and kind of making it a tight-knit story about a small family during this globe-trotting adventure with monsters and stuff. And we saw that that's really hard to do in Godzilla 2014, so it really makes me wonder, how are they going to do this? And the same thing goes for Godzilla vs. Kong. It's like, what the hell is that going to be about?
Yeah, the early reviews, thankfully, apparently they showed like 40 minutes of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and people coming out of it were saying it had the same kind of feel and pace to Kong Skull Island, which I love, so I hope that it does. What I don't want to see is a straight up remake of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. I'd almost rather see like Godzilla taking on all three different monsters that are going to appear in it, or maybe something different like Mothra taking on Rodan would be kind of cool. But I don't want to see like a big team up necessarily, like an Avengers style team up of the monsters.
Sure.
And for Godzilla vs. Kong, I'm not really sure yet till we see the next film. I think to project that far about what it's going to be. It just better be a great SmackDown fight. I don't know. They got to bring Godzilla to Skull Island, right? I mean, as big as Kong's going to be, how would you get him off the island?
Excuse me. There's no way they're going to do Godzilla vs. Kong and not have it take place in a city. At least part of it.
I agree to that too. But how do they bring Kong out and not make it balloons? Like something like that.
Hollow Earth.
A Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth. Well, I mean, I think that what's probably going to happen is we're going to learn that at some point in the intervening years between Skull Island and Godzilla 2014, that that Monarch probably had some big expedition to the island and just captured Kong.
Okay.
That was sort of the partially the part of the plot with the Birth of Kong comic book series,
right?
But where they sort of reestablished that no, Kong is part of this island's natural balance, and he's sort of the thing keeping us safe. So I would have to think there'd have to be something catastrophic that happens on the island, like it would have to go up in a volcanic eruption or something. So maybe that's what happens. Maybe the fight between Godzilla and Ghidorah shifts the fundamental tectonic plates of the Earth or something. I don't know. It's a monster movie.
Matt, now that you mention it, might be kind of a cool point. If they do remove Kong from Skull Island, because they mentioned that the Skull Crawlers then they would take things over. If the Skull Crawlers became like the Gauss in the Gamera series in the 90s one, where they kind of just breed out of control and maybe leave the island, that would be an interesting take.
Yeah, and then Kong basically has to go after them.
Right,
and that's interesting. I was my headspace was sort of going towards a better version of Batman v Superman, where like Kong sees Godzilla and King Ghidorah fighting in midair, and then they destroy Skull Island, and then Kong has to put on McKinney Kong's armor, and Godzilla's all "Save Mothra." But anyway, that's
well, as long as they have a few establishing shots, that's all.
Oh, sure, of course. I friggin' hate that movie. That movie rearranged in my head what a definition of a bad movie is. But anyway. I do
think the Skullcrawlers kind of breeding out of control might be a cool way to do it, though. And they don't even necessarily have to swim, like Omni said, because they can go through the Hollow Earth. We know that. So they were popping up all over the place. That might be kind of cool.
Yeah, they have like emergence points, and maybe Monarch's been monitoring emergence points because all these other creatures, they don't even necessarily have to be skullcrawlers. They could be regional. It could be other creatures down there, and they all start digging their way up through the earth because of the. No, that's just it. I think it's going to be related somehow to Godzilla and King Ghidorah, because Ghidorah is like this super monster that in this world ender, and Ghidorah's presence, I mean, we've seen that in these movies, we've established that the presence of monsters brings out other monsters.
Okay, right.
Right, so like, the Mutos are reborn, and that brings out Godzilla. Right. So Godzilla's presence is probably what's going to awaken Rodan and Mothra, and then them all fighting is what's going to bring out King Ghidorah. And then, I bet you anything, the rest of the Hollow Earth creatures are going to start emerging, and that's what's going to drive Kong off the island, and he's going to be like, I'm going to have to go take care of this myself.
No, I like this. Greg, you're recording this, right? So if the Legendary just film, Matt and I can sue him, right?
Yeah. Or at least get partial writing credit and tickets to the premiere.
There you go. I like that.
And all the popcorn we can eat.
Darn right.
The only prediction I'd say I can make for certain, and I already did a video on it, I'm fairly certain Mothra, at the very least, will be the major casualty among the monsters, because dying is kind of something she does anyway.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Rodan's probably gonna get taken out too, but it wouldn't surprise me.
What do you think about Kong? Because Kong usually dies, obviously. I like the living Kong.
They said there's going to be a definitive winner in Kong versus Godzilla, although that could all just be hokum. And
getting back to your Batman v Superman comparison, you could say there was a definitive winner there, but Batman didn't kill Superman. They wound up again.
Well, I think more that what's his name? The director, what's his name?
Snyder?
Adam Wingard. No, Adam Wingard. I think what Adam Wingard, like, what he was saying was that it felt to me like he was implying there's not going to be, like, oh, we fought for part of the movie, and now we're going to drop everything and team up against a bigger, badder enemy. Because, I don't know. Because I think what people want to see in Godzilla vs. Kong is Godzilla vs. Kong.
I concur, yeah.
Yeah. And just this... Although it is really interesting that we're getting King Ghidorah first, and then Kong comes after. It feels like if you're going through a build-up, you're sort of backtracking a little bit to go back around to Kong.
Well, I would think for us that's the case, but for the general movie-going audience, Kong is definitely the bigger name than Ghidorah, don't you think? Like, in terms of general question. In fact, was looking about, like, because people keep asking me, like, Matt, who do you think's going to win? And when I went back and tracked it, not that I did a whole lot of homework because I'm a nerd, but anyway, the reason Batman beat Superman, more like I would agree with Omni on that, is that the Batman movies make more money than the Superman movies do, historically, like going back in time. If you were to line up the Kong movies to the Godzilla movies, now granted, some of these are apples to oranges, the Kong movies are always more profitable than the Godzilla movies. So that leads me to think that, would that be enough for the writers to decide? Kong should win because he makes more money.
I don't necessarily think that's the case, because while Kong movies on a whole individually make more money, that's because they're big American productions, and there's really only 3 Kong movies that did really well in American theaters, maybe 4 if you count Godzilla, King Kong versus Godzilla.
Right. They say the Peter Jackson one, Skull Island, and
Oh, that's right. And then you also, I guess you could also make it 5 if you had Skull Island.
Right.
But they're American productions, and they generally have big budgets and big marketing budgets, and they play well outside of America. Whereas Godzilla, the sheer volume, though, I'd say there's a stronger Godzilla fandom than there is for Kong, because a lot of people I talk to, and a lot of the chatter I've seen out there has kind of favored Godzilla because a lot of people don't really see Kong as a franchise. You know what I mean?
No, I would agree in that respect, and definitely Godzilla has the more fervent fan base. I'm just wondering if I'm Warner Brothers, and I'm just speculating, I'm not trying to make a case here, but am I looking at this as, for the general movie-going public, Kong it might be more recognizable, especially for the American movie-going public. Although China certainly weighs heavily at this point, right? I mean, they basically decide what goes and doesn't as far as movies these days. So.
That's true.
We also have, and I don't know how official this is, but hasn't it been said that Toho has stipulated with Warner Brothers that Godzilla cannot be killed in their movies?
Hard to say. That doesn't mean that he wouldn't be defeated.
Right.
Like, I mean, Kong could throw him into a volcano, I mean, it's not like it's going to kill him, but he'd be stuck there for a while. There's no telling. I mean, the thing is that we can sit here and speculate all day, but ultimately the people working on the films are the ones kind of at the wheel, and they're paid to sit and think about this all day.
Right.
Yeah.
So they could come up with something. I remember a lot of people saying, well, how's Skull Island going to work? How's that going to... Or even when people were saying, well, how's Kong going to fight Godzilla? Kong's only, 100 feet tall. Godzilla's 300 feet tall. And it's like, well, first of all, it's a movie. They can do whatever they want.
Thank you.
It's make-believe. It's make-believe with your brain meats. And then the other thing is, like, they came up with a reason. He's still an adolescent. He's still growing.
Right.
So he's going to be... And they did say that in John C. Reilly does say in the movie that, hey, you better hope he keeps growing. Because there's bad stuff out there. And that just makes me think, like, that actually makes me think that there is some credence to the Skullcrawler thing, that the Skullcrawlers could come back.
Yeah, because I feel like they're a potential large threat. I mean, there's got to be more of them than just under Skull Island, right? Like, they've got to be everywhere. So
there's that interview. There's that interview with Michael Dougherty where he said there are going to be more monsters than just the big 4 in King of the Monsters.
He did, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
And real quick about the size differentiation thing, one thing I thought Rampage did real well is show you could have an interesting battle even if one monster's significantly larger than the other, and that, like, Lizzie was a lot bigger than George, right? But
yeah, definitely. I feel like he got cut off. Is everybody still there?
Oh,
yeah.
I'm still here. My thoughts are, if Ghidorah survives the fight with Godzilla, he might pop up in vs. Kong as the quote-unquote final boss, but that would be a kind of a cop-out if they did the whole Godzilla Kong joining up against Ghidorah or maybe some other unknown monster that Legendary might have the rights to, but they haven't said anything, or it might be an original Kaiju to come up with, serve as the final end boss for the movie.
Yeah. Again, that still kind of feels like a cop-out, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're both quote-unquote good guys in this, so...
Well, that's debatable.
As far as lesser of two evils at the absolute worst. Like, Godzilla clearly doesn't deliberately attack the humans, even when he's being attacked, and Kong does specifically protect people.
Right.
So...
Well, you also have to remember, we've only seen one Godzilla movie with this version of Godzilla, and they just didn't do anything to him that warranted him to turn his wrath on them. I think that it's more likely that something might happen to Godzilla, like maybe they try to nuke him again, or maybe at the beginning of Godzilla vs. Kong, they're like, okay, Godzilla was the only one left, he destroyed King Ghidorah, we can't have any more of these monsters around. let's try and kill Godzilla. And maybe they nuke him, and maybe that drives him over the edge, and he starts just lashing out. And now Kong's got to basically put him down. So I don't know.
I could see a situation where, to me, the legendary Godzilla shares a lot of the same qualities as the 90s Gamera, where they kind of hinted in that series towards the end that, Gamera's been protecting people, but his main job is to, protect the Earth. And if people keep, destroying the Earth, he might turn on them. So I don't know if they go that far, but you could see something where Godzilla perhaps starts to see humanity as maybe a slight threat, and then Kong, who like Omni said, is clearly a protector of people, steps in to deal with the situation. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's no matter how much of a protector or anti-hero or whatever Godzilla becomes, there's always a reason for him to fight Mothra. So, right. I mean, I think that's, I like I said, these guys are paid to sit around and figure this stuff out day in and day out. I'm sure they've got a plan, and hopefully it'll make sense and it won't suck. But well, I know I've got to get going.
Yeah, guys, I do too.
But but is there anything else we wanted to cover real quick?
Just maybe quick little what are some kaiju stories or paleofiction stories that we would like to see maybe made into films that haven't been made into films quite yet? And off the bat there's an awesome book that I read a while back that I think would make the next great R-rated Jurassic Park. It's called Primitive War by Ethan Pettis. It has dinosaurs versus human soldiers during the bloody conflict of the Vietnam War. It's a lot better than what I'm saying. So if you think something that's awesome to make a movie, Primitive War is the go-to book to make into a movie.
I want to go Nemesis. I want to see a Nemesis movie.
Nice. Very nice.
There's this one particular comic book called Giant Monster. You guys ever heard of it?
Yeah, it's who does that, Matt? I can't remember now.
I can't remember it either.
Steve Niles do that?
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
It was Steve Niles. I would actually like to see a film adaptation of that. I thought the monster in that comic was kind of scary looking.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Devil Dinosaur. Just Devil Dinosaur or something.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and hate all over Moon Girl, but when I heard that it was going to be a Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl a TV show they were possibly working on, I was like, ugh, because I don't dislike her in concept. I don't think she's written very well, and I would prefer, just fundamentally, I would prefer Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy, just because it means we could get a prehistoric setting with cavemen, anachronistic cavemen and dinosaurs. So yeah,
years BC, kind of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody
Raquel up in here.
Yeah, somebody really needs to do a film adaptation of Dinosaurs Attack.
Yeah. That creeps up every couple years and goes away.
Yeah, because everyone's like, this sounds stupid.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, if it had the same tone and style of the Rampage movie, then I think Dinosaurs Attack actually could conceivably work as a film. And actually, there were attempts to get it off the ground in the early 90s, but Jurassic Park put the shish kebab on that.
So Tim Burton attacks instead.
Right, which I'm like, oh man. See, if they went for it like Mars Attacks and made it just real weird and gross and dumb, man, I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have had a pleasure talking with all you guys tonight, but I do have to get going. So thank you so much for having me on, Greg. Matt, always a pleasure whenever I talk to you. Omni, same, and Sam as well, guys. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good night.
You're welcome. You have a good night, Mr. Dennion, and I'll catch you later.
Yep.
Yeah, good talking to you, man. Hit me up about the charity thing.
Will do. Thank you so much. All right, bye, guys.
All right. Bye.
Later.
So, we're still recording, right?
Yeah, I'll stop recording once everybody has, exited the stage.
Well, I got to get going myself, but thank you again for having me, Greg. Omni, nice talking to you.
Likewise.
Sam, always a pleasure.
You too. See you later.
Yeah. The last thing I will say is, and I didn't want to bring it up like right after Matt made his super earnest call for charity and stuff, and be like, I got a new book coming out. You should buy it so I can get money. But Redman has an American publisher. We have a U.S. distributor. If you go through Night Shining is the name of the company. If you go onto Facebook and look for Redman the Kaiju Hunter, just search for Redman Kaiju Hunter, you will find our English language Facebook page, and you can keep an eye on that for all the new info about the American release.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out, because I'm always a sucker for new works of kaiju issues, like the aforementioned Daikaiju Yuki series, which I've actually just started reading a couple, like last week. I'm currently up to chapter 7 of the first book on Kindle.
Nice. They're really good. And I did those. I'm going to have copies available at South Texas Comic Con, although I'm not sure when this podcast is going up. But I'm going to have copies of Makwa there with my illustrations in it, so that'll be fun. Also, if you like kaiju, you'll like Redman. It is just chock-a-block with kaiju, and recognizable kaiju too, because they're all characters from the Ultraman series. So check that out. But yeah, thanks again, guys. I'll catch y'all on the flip.
Yep, we'll be catching you at G-Fest in less than 90 days' time.
Oh God, help me! All right, I'll see you guys then.
All right, have a good night, Mr. Patrick.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay, you guys want to close out the recording here, or do you want to keep talking about other stuff?
I'm ready to close it out.
Well, okay, I suppose this is as good as time as ever to wrap things up. This has been a special episode of the Prehistory Traveler's Guide podcast. I am the showrunner, Mr. Greg Dennion, and I'll say once again, have a good night. Good luck, everyone.